All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this thing going. How you guys all doing today? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this thing. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me. But it's good to have you guys all here with me. As I said, or as you can probably see from the title here, we're going to be testing out some different cruisers in space tonight. We're probably going to be going for about an hour, hour and a half or so. I've got all of the different faction cruisers here on the test server, and what I want to do is basically start here. I've got this is obviously not a cruiser, but this is one of the Sisters of Eve's ships. And so I'm going to talk a little bit. We're going to start by just going over what in space is, some of the nuances that I've seen, just kind of kicking it around and playing with it on the actual server. And then we'll really kind of dive into some of the builds and the PvE aspects of the in space ratting and some of the new mechanics that you guys need to be aware of if you're going to be able to really take advantage of some of the fun that you can really have here. Awesome. So, with that being said, little bonus here, as you guys can see, I've got the Astro, which is of course a Sisters of Eve exploration frigate. This is going to be really important in about a month or so because it's got some really cool bonuses. I'm going to be doing a video on that in probably about another 2 or 3 weeks. If I'm being completely honest, I'm hoping that they buff a couple of the bonuses that these ships get. I do think they're slightly underpowered. I think they serve a different function than a lot of the other ships or faction ships that we have right now. But again, just kind of a little teaser for later. But with that being said, I am going to go ahead and we're going to scan here. And as you guys know, with InSpace, really the biggest thing here is that it's not just about the scanning and getting out there, but we have a lot of kind of various aspects that go into it. And I shouldn't really say many. There's really 3 things, right? We've got the fact that we got to scan them down. We've got the fact that we have a capacitor penalty. And then we also have the fact that you cannot warp in space. And so those are going to be the 3 things that we really need to focus on. But in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start by going to one of these compressed in spaces so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. And I am on the test server here, so I'm just going to go ahead and preface this with there are some quirks on this test server that we don't have to deal with, thankfully, on the live server. So just bear with me. I appreciate your patience as we're doing some of this. All right, guys. So what I'm doing here, I'm at the gate. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, one of the big things that is different about in space as opposed to normal space is the capacitor penalty that you get. Now, for those of you that may not have had a chance to play around with this, what you're going to see here is this capacitor recharge time is what's going to take a penalty. So when we get into the in space, this number is going to increase by a certain percentage based off of the level of the in space that we're in. So if I go ahead and I go here, you notice that was a 240 second capacitor recharge. That means that if we were to go from 0 to 100% charged, it would take us 240 seconds. If I go in here and I jump, and again, of course, I'm sure we're all very aware of the lovely nature of the jump and some of the lag here. That number is going to change. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that go for a second. Hey, Alan, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining. I appreciate that. All right, so eventually whenever we do log here. All right, so 2 things to note as we first jump into the in space. The first is that I do have a cloak timer here, and hopefully you guys are able to see my little cursor here from my iPad. But basically that cloak is only going to apply when we jump into the first room. After that, it does actually just drop you in without one. Now, if you notice, this debuff that I saw here, or that I mentioned here, is the 40% increase to recharge time. Now, I will fully own that I was an idiot, and the first couple of times that I jumped in and did one of these, I misread that as we got an increase in how quickly our capacitor recharges. And so if you were with me on one of those initial roams or initial jumps into Nihilus space, I apologize. But as I mentioned, what that does is if we go back in here to our fittings, you're going to see that capacitor is no longer stable. It does actually now take us 336 seconds instead of the 240. And again, this is going to be really important as we start talking about fitting and some of the different options that we have and the way that we're going to combat this. But I just want to level set so to make sure that everybody understands kind of that's one of the main drivers here that we're going to be dealing with. Now, the other thing, again, just as I mentioned, is that you cannot warp. So if, for example, I'm in here and if I wanted to go to this other gate, I cannot actually warp to it. So just again, be aware that if you are going to be in here, if you're going to be doing things in here and somebody jumps you, you can't actually just warp to a gate or anything like that. So it's basically a giant interdiction bubble. Now I'm going to go ahead and enter in here. Can I show the ships of the Sisters of Eve? Yeah, let me talk. I'll talk real quick about this one, which is the Astro. Again, while we're jumping out, like I said, I'm going to be doing a full series of videos on that, or at least one video on those. But real quick, I'll give you guys an overview of this one as soon as, of course, I get back out here. Let's go into the ship tree. I don't know if these are actually... So with these ships, you've got 3 different ones. The big benefit that they have is this this cloaking device lock delay. What that just means is that as soon as you undock, you can actually lock somebody up. Because of this, I'm planning on using these ships as basically PvP hunters, where you can jump in, you can be cloaked, you can see exactly what you're dealing with, you can get into range of your scram, drop that cloak, and then immediately tackle something. Because of that, you can see that in my fit, the way that I'm planning to run this and kind of what I've been testing a few things. If this ever loads up, you'll see in my mid slots, I would swap this wide resonance scanner out for the narrow, and then I'm actually planning to run two Predator warp disruptors. The primary reason for that being that I want to be able to get past that at least first warp core optimizer that a lot of people run. So if they have 3 points of stabilization, I've got 4 points on my ship, and I can go ahead and still tackle something. Other than that, it is a drone ship. I like to run missiles just because that's what I'm skilled into on the character that will likely be running this. And then I'm going to be running a very tanky fit here. I'm going to be running a additional armor hardener. You could run damage if you wanted as well. But overall, I think it's going to be a really fun ship. I'm really looking forward to them. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on some of these ships later as well. So hopefully that hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of a sneak peek there. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Yeah, the Fulmination server is ridiculously laggy. So, like I said, I appreciate y'all bearing with me because, trust me, it's as much of a pain for me as it is for y'all. So the first ship that I want to try out here, I'm actually going to go with the Gila. This is one of the ships that I've really enjoyed playing with on the live server. I don't actually run it anymore because our alliance skilled out of missiles, or we never were really missiles, and so I skilled into so I skilled into cannons. But when I did run it, it was a lot of fun. And so I'm going to see here the big benefit, and the reason that I'm going to start here with this is because with both missiles and drones, you obviously don't use any capacitor. And so as we start getting into this in space and as we start dealing with the rats, really the only mods that I'm going to be running are going to be my prop mod and then any kind of defensive tank mods. So let me go down here, and eventually it'll join here. But the big thing and the bonus here that we get with the Gila is also that because it's running missiles, it's going to be applying damage across all types of enemies. Because we're not, for example, running cannons, we are still getting pretty decent spread of damage, and with the drones we can swap those out depending on what kind of anomaly or in space that we're trying to run here. So let me just make sure so you guys can see the fit that I'm running here. Again, this is actually from one of the guys on our server with a couple of small tweaks. You'll see that I'm running the medium rapids, all C-type, because I'm on the test server and I can blink stuff out for free. So, you know, why not get the best, right? I am then also going to run a Federation Fleet Scrambler as well as 2 Predator Stasis webs. Now, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you can't actually run, or you can't warp in space. And so the other thing that I'm doing here is I'm going to be dual propping this Gila, which may sound a little blasphemous at first, but the reason for that, and what I've found when I've been in these in the live server, is that if somebody drops in on you and you're away from a gate, your ability to survive is largely going to depend on whether or not you're able to actually get to another gate, or if you're able to chase somebody down, because you can't just warp around as freely as you would in a lot of other cases. So for that reason, I am going to be dual propping a lot of these builds. I like the fact that I can use my afterburner for a little bit of speed and, you know, control my speed a little bit more without completely draining my cap, and then use that micro warp drive if I really need it, again, to get out of a sticky situation or to just control the engagement a little bit better. That's my personal preference. I do know a lot of people actually that will just run a micro warp drive, but I just find that with the penalty that you have on the capacitor recharge, I just don't like losing out on that much capacitor personally. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and undock, and then we'll warp to the anomaly. We'll wait another 10 minutes while the full nation server decides to let us out of the station here. But what do you guys think? What does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about, you know, kind of that build, or why I built that the way I did, as opposed to maybe putting some extra damage mods or anything like that on? Feel free to just drop them in the chat as we're going here. Obviously, I'm going to be having a little bit of downtime between stuff here as we're waiting on some of this. The one other thing I will say, if you don't know already, or if you haven't seen it, if you've already scanned, you can actually go back into your star map. You can hit this. I'm going to go to this Angel Dead Space here, and we'll see if we can't get going eventually whenever it lets me go. Yeah, absolutely. You could just go full spec into afterburners. I've got skills in both, so I like running an afterburner. I run it on my SFI and my Cinnable, but it's definitely good to have both of those skills in my opinion. You're never going to hurt for having too much speed, right? Yeah, so the battery, I actually was going back and forth on that one for a little bit. And the reason that I didn't go with the battery is because in most of these cases, I've found that I either end an engagement soon enough that the battery, or that my recharge rate with the extra battery capacitor is, it's not a moot point, but it's, I feel like I don't get quite as much benefit out of it because that battery doesn't last super long. whereas the overtime capacitor savings that I get with the afterburner, again, just to me seems like it's a little bit better use of that, and I still get the extra speed. But absolutely, I think the battery is a great way to do this. All right, let's see here again. All right, so we're dropping in. As you guys can see, we've got a couple of rats here, and apparently we're going to be collapsing this in space in a little bit less than 25 minutes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start moving towards these guys. I'm going to hit my MWD for just a second. And my drone range here is pretty good. We've got a 50-kilometer drone range, so I can go ahead and actually start. I am going to orbit just about 40 kilometers. And let's see if we can't get some of these guys before they get us. Now, you'll see here once I get some of the really fast ships out, I'm going to turn off the MWD and be running just with that afterburner. Again, I think the biggest thing that you just have to be keeping an eye on is your cap. Now, with that being said, the benefit again of the Gila is that I am running drones and missiles which don't take any cap to fire those weapons. That being said, I think we are going to move in a little bit closer here. Again, once I get this stuff, once I get some of these guys down, I'm going to be running medium rapid missiles here. And those do have a range of just under 21 kilometers. So, just over 21 kilometers. So I'm going to move in a little bit closer once I get some of this going. But for now, I am going to go ahead and leave this on once I kill these guys. Let's get just some of the big stuff going. And again, you guys can see the joys of the Fulmination server and all of the laggy bugginess that we're dealing with, but it still works. It still works. And I'm just going to keep an eye here just to kind of see how close I stay to these. Like I said, you know, this is well, I shouldn't say like I said. So one other thing that the devs have said is that these types of anomalies are a little bit harder than your typical like Inquisitor or Dead Spaces, things like that. I usually equate them to about a T8, 2 levels above where I currently am. Again, Gila, any of these faction ships really shouldn't have too much of a problem with it, but you can kind of see where they do stand and where they are in relation to some of these other items. Now I'm going to keep an eye on this guy, and as soon as he gets a little close for comfort, I'll start my webs just to make sure that we stay with plenty of range, or I'll just kill them all together. All right. So overall, I think the Gila's doing pretty well. You know, again, I think it's going to largely depend on why do I not have a lock on this guy? Okay, because he's already dead. Okay. So I'm going to move in here again. Again, I think my cap's holding pretty steady. I think that this is a pretty solid option for now. You don't have any kind of local chat or anything like that in here. So again, you do have to be careful. I would likely keep this up onto my ship tab. I've actually got a custom overview that I use for PvP that I usually run in these, and I just forgot to make one here. But normally what would I do is I would have this in the enemies tab, and then I would just use the icons up above the top to make sure that I'm actually looking at the right, for lack of a better term, I guess, the right ship type with the NPCs versus player characters. Because again, if a player character comes in, or if another pilot comes in, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm being very careful about my positioning and where I am in relation to a lot of these anomalies. I did not show the rigs, so Kihan, and I hope I pronounced your name right, but Kihan, so what I did for rigs on this one, these are mostly drone rigs because I'm normally a drone pilot, and that's just the way that I would rig the Gila. And again, eventually we'll get here. I do use a semiconductor. This is just for me because I like having the extra cap up front. And then we also do have 2 auxiliary thrusters. Typically, I don't fit a polycarbon if there's not going to be, if I'm not going to be speed tanking. The reason for that is just that the extra bonus that you get for the inertia, I just don't think is really worth it, if I'm being honest, because there's just not enough, I guess for lack of a better term, you're far enough off that there's not enough of a return on investment when it comes to the inertia benefit that you get. Your ship's going to be able to turn anyways when you're orbiting at 15, 20, 30 kilometers. So unless you're really trying to get in close, I typically just go with the aux rigs instead, and then use that third slot for, again, like a semiconductor or something like that. All right, so normally there's another wave or 2 here, but I guess we're not going to have one of those today. So that's really the Gila. Like I said, I think it's a really solid fit, especially for this type of anomaly. The combination of drones and missiles. Really, I mean, I obviously didn't have to hit my my shield or anything like that. So it really stayed pretty stable. I mean, what questions do you guys have? I'm gonna start heading back here, and maybe we can grab another ship unless y'all want to see something else with the Gila. Would I say that these are pretty AFK like any T8? Yes and no. Yes, from a ratting perspective, I think that if you go into it with a fit that you are aware of the capacitor downsides, then I think that you can fit this well enough that you could, in theory, AFK it. The no comes in that these types of anomalies are always getting scanned down. I think I've probably done 10 to 15 of these on the live server between compressed belt or compressed in spaces and then actual ratting in spaces. And I would say out of those 10 to 12, there's been reds in probably about half of them coming from other gates or just, coming in after us, things like that, because they've scanned down the same system that we started in. So if you do find one of these, you probably can do it AFK, but I would at least have that tab up to show the enemy ships coming in, just to make sure that you don't get surprised and ganked. All right. Well, what do you guys want to do next? I'm feeling like it might be an Ashimmu type of trip next. Does that work? Jonathan, is it worth putting that much ISK at risk to do an in space? Do you get enough out of one? At this level, I think that the max that I would probably put in, I've run these with my Cinnable that runs around 2.5 billion ISK. That being said, I would probably not put much more in at this point. The ones that I've done, it probably takes you, and I'm just going to do that real quick so I can actually multitask. I think that the ones that I've done, we netted out about 750 to 900 million. When you split that between, I think we had 3 of us doing it. Obviously, it's going to take you several times. It's not like, it is kind of like a normal in space, I guess, because you are going to be doing harder content, but also getting those really good mods and things like that. So I would probably say that 2 to 2.5 billion ISK is probably about where I would put it. For this build, with all the bling that's on it, it is probably a little overkill. I think that this would probably end up being around 3 billion ISK. I can't calculate because they don't have insurance on the test server. But that would be about what I think this ship type would be. So it may be a little overkill. But this is not that far off of what I would normally use for a regular Gila. Yeah, you can certainly use a frigate too. I love running these with my Daredevil, because again, you can just throw 3 webs on there and you can basically stop anything. I've also had a lot of fun running these with my Tall War Assault. So I'm going to be putting out a video on that ship as well. But just the range on the webs, those are any kind of Blood Raider. I haven't done it. I haven't done anything with a crew or anything like that in PvP. But those frigs, if you really wanted to, you could do some really cool stuff there too. All right, so we're going to use the Ashimu next. Again, if this ever loads. Now, of course, the Ashimu in PvP does have the big benefit of being able to drain those capacitors down to 0 anyways. Then when you add on to it the penalty that you get in space, this becomes a really powerful ship. And there we go. And the only time that we've actually run from a fight when we were doing these was actually when the enemy had 2 Ashimus on field. I was able to ninja loot, which is kind of a cool video that I might have to try to see if I can find. But that one in particular was it was just a fight that we weren't going to win. And so these ships, I'll be honest, these ships scare the crap out of me when it comes to end spaces. But we'll talk about that more in just a minute. All right, so for this build, I am going to kind of be running a fairly standard Ashimu build here. This was actually given to me by one of my court mates that he runs this on his Ashimu. He's got the pulse lasers here. We're going to be orbiting about 17 kilometers out. And what he does is he will actually run 2 hardeners, a repairer, and then the MWD. I chose to use that build here because I'm going to be running a large a large NOS. I'm basically going to use this NOS as a newt. And then again, with the extra range that we get because of the Blood Raider ship bonuses, I'm going to be running 2 Predator stasis webs along with a fleet warp. You probably could throw another smaller a newt on here or another NOS if you really wanted to. I just think that for this purposes, it's going to be a little bit more effective for PvP to be able to have that extra tank and then just be able to control that range a little bit easier. Now, in terms of the rigs here, I am going to be using the burst aerators. Just get that rate of fire up so that we're constantly doing more DPS. And then I do actually go ahead and I go with the anti-explosive pump just to fill some of those resistances. Now, you guys will probably have seen a number of different videos, a number of different ways to do this. I am armor tanking this because I just think that that's a more stable build in space, because your armor repairs are a little bit more cap efficient than shields. But I know a lot of people who do still shield tank these even with the buff to armor. And then for this, again, I'm actually going to use a targeting system and then 2 aux thrusters. The reason that I'm using the targeting system as opposed to a capacitor rig is again just because the Blood Raiders have that additional bonuses to the NOS and the newts, and so I would just rather get a little bit faster targeting. Again, this is kind of your personal preference. I've gotten burned by ninja looters even in spaces, and so just being able to have that extra quick targeting for me is worth it here. But let's go ahead and undock and we'll head out. Yep. So I think that the newt is is something that I've been going back and forth on. And Jonathan, I'm curious what your thoughts are here. Um, I like the NOS just because it does basically drain the cap in even 2 or 3 cycles. It does take a while, but I keep going back and forth with whether or not I want to throw a NOS or if I just want to keep people at range and just keep newting them to, or I'm sorry, NOSing them to death, just on my own terms. Crew for missiles to save on the healing. Yeah, you certainly could. I actually don't know. I haven't tried that one. I'm gonna have to give that one some thought. Where did that end space go? But yeah, that's actually a good thought. I'm gonna have to look at that one. All right, let's see if we can get warp in here. Yep, I would agree with that. Yeah, NOS on the Blood Raider. Everything else needs a newt. That blah, blah, blah. If I could talk today, that'd be great. I would agree with that. I think that if you've got an extra slot for a newt, that would definitely be a great use of a mid slot. And yes, rats do have infinite cap, which makes for a very helpful NOS. Come on. Yes, I want to enter. Yes, I want to enter again. Like I said, joys of fulmination, right? All right. So on this one, let's see if I can get in. Actually, I need to make sure that my auto orbit was still on. It was not. Okay. Let's do that. All right, so we are back in here. I'm going to go to the main area. We're going to hit our MWD just to get there. We've only got about 8 minutes, so I'll probably have to spawn another one of these in just a sec, but that's all right. Again, benefits of the test server is I can do that. All right. So while we're going, you guys can see with the hardeners on, the resistances here do go up pretty significantly. I think that the big thing to remember with these resistances, and what we've done in a couple of instances, is actually to have an armor link guardian. Again, just because of the way that the in spaces work and they're a little bit more compressed, it's a lot easier to use an armor link guardian. And it's also just, again, more cap efficient. So a lot of times you can actually get a lot more out of that, out of those heals, than if you were to, try to run shields or something like that. All right. And we're jumping into the public sector. And this is where you would really start to see enemy players coming in. That first zone, depending on how it's spawned, is likely going to be the secure zone. Excuse me. So you will see that. Now, as I jumped in here, again, no cloak coming up at all. So I am going to be just immediately lockable if there's any players in here. If there's anything that is right on the gate for whatever reason, I will likely not be able to get away from that. So just be aware as you're looking at some of those. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and start by trying to get out of here because I was not paying attention properly. We're going to go ahead and hit these guys with some webs. We're going to pull range just a little bit if I can. Come on, test server. And again, I'm seeing my shield go down. I'm not too worried about it at this point. I am going to go ahead and start draining some of this. And we've got our rupture. Again, I'm not terribly worried, but always better to just have more cap. I'd rather have more cap and not need it, and then need it and not have it, right? So, all right. So as we're going here, one other thing with the Blood Raider ship that I did not do a good job of here that I should have been more aware of is just, again, as those rats are coming in, you can also split your webs. Don't feel like you have to throw everything onto one at the same time. So just as an example here, let's say that, and I think these webs should have a range of around 30 kilometers. Yep. So let's say that I've got this guy coming in. He's going to be at 30 kilometers, and then I've got this other Talwar, and let's say that he's getting a little close for comfort. I can split those webs. I don't have to put them all on one target. Obviously, that does reduce the effect, but overall, if it keeps them away from me longer and lets me focus down the rats that are coming in, something that you can do and be aware of. I'm going to hit my capacitor. We're going to keep that NOS going, and with the NOS going, again, my cap is at 94%, 93%. I probably don't need to be running the hardeners right now, but again, I can, so why not, right? All right, so let's see here. Any other questions or anything else coming up? Not yet. All right. So yeah, so this is the Ashimmu. This is kind of the, again, what I think is probably the go-to of a lot of people in space. I think that the bonuses that it gets are really fantastic for PvP normally, and then when you add on all of the other intricacies of the in space, I'm obviously not going to be speed tanking these guys, but with the lasers and with the NOS and everything like that, I can armor tank this pretty well, I think. I'm just going to go ahead and start this just so that you guys can kind of see the impact this is going to have on my cap as I'm going. But with that large NOS, I don't think that I'm really going to have too much of a problem here. And I'm actually going to turn the MWD off because I'm missing a lot here. I'm going to have to spawn another in space here. This thing is going down quick. Yeah, there we go. Now we're starting to actually hit these guys again. Alright, so let's focus fire this guy. We're going to, again, go to about 14, 15 kilometers. Better than forgetting to activate hardeners. That is very true, and I have unfortunately done that more times than I would care to admit. So, yeah, I just out of habit now activate them as soon as they go, as soon as I get in. The worst faction cruiser. So, I actually have my own opinion about that, and I will jump into that one next. I don't have the Stratio set up yet. That may be one that I'm going to, like I said, do another video on in just a second, probably in about a week or two here. So I'm going to do a full Sisters of Eve lineup video, if you will. So I'll keep you guys posted on that one. I'm really excited about the Nestor personally. I don't know about y'all. All right. Well, yeah, so that's really the Ashimmu. Any other thoughts, questions? You guys let me know. I'm going to start heading back here. This is about to collapse anyways. So let's see if we can't get, or I guess I could just let it kick me out. Let's see here. We'll just let it kick me out. It's only got a minute. It'll probably be faster than trying to go all the way back. All right, let's see here. All right, so yeah, and we're just now finally getting into armor. So, and you guys can see I've been running the heart or the repair here. My cap is still 80-90%. If you're doing this solo, I don't think you're gonna have any issues with the Ashimmu. You know, maybe with some other ones if you were trying to active tank a lot more, especially if you're trying to run shields, that might be more of a problem. But if you're armor tanked, especially even running the micro warp drive and all this other stuff, you know, with that NOS, you're just you're staying nice and topped off the entire time. So I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. All right, so we got 30 seconds till this collapses. I'm just going to let it kick me out. All right, my most hated cruiser. I don't know if it's hated. So I'm actually my least favorite, I will say, because if you were to offer me a faction cruiser, I don't think I'd ever turn it down. But my least favorite is definitely the Phantasm, and so we are going to grab that guy next. Of course, I'm on Fulmination. It says it's closing, but it's not doing anything. All right. Let's see. Is this gonna... Let's go back to our covert storage, and maybe it'll just kick me out. But yeah, so the Phantasm is actually going to be my least favorite ship for, especially for end spaces. As you guys have seen, the rats here are not that powerful, especially for a well-fitted faction cruiser. And so when we start looking at the Phantasm's strengths and the fact that it is an incredibly tanky ship, the fact of the matter... Okay, now we're finally kicked out. And we'll see what actually happens here. The fact of the matter is just that its strengths don't play very well in... here we go. Its strengths just don't play very well in space. It's just not a great... it's not a great active tank, and it's not a great with lasers. It uses a lot of cap. It is very fast. I do like that you can't shut the propulsion down, because I'm assuming that you're using the an afterburner instead of a micro warp drive. But it's just, in my opinion, it's just the weakest of all of the faction ships. I think that the Vigilant, and when you guys are actually saying in the in the chat right now, I completely agree with y'all. I love the Vigilant, and I'm actually going to be using two different Vigilant builds here. One that is my Vigilant build, and then one that is a Corpmates build. So we'll do that in just a minute, but first I do want to go ahead and I'm going to test out the Phantasm. Again, if this ever works. And actually, I think before I do that, I'm going to hop back into the Astro, because I think I got to scan down another one of these things. Eventually, we'll get there. Yeah, I think the Phantasm probably, in all honesty, with the nerf to shield field mods, I don't know a whole lot of people that still run a Phantasm. The big benefit with the Phantasm was that you could speed tank while in a bubble with all those resistances, or you could just sit there and use it, and it wasn't an issue. But the fact of how many times am I going to say fact of the matter? The uncomfortable truth here is that with the way that the Phantasm is built, it's basically a MOA 2 that costs like 5 times as much. And so I don't know of a lot of people that are still running them. It's just, again, it just doesn't feel like it's a appropriate risk and reward for what we're doing. All right, so I've got this other signal. Let's go ahead and analyze that. If you guys didn't see the video that I did on this the scanning mini game, I'll give you a quick crash course here. Basically, the way that I look at these is I look for what I call regular waves, which are kind of these ones here that have the very consistent flow, versus irregular waves, which are the ones like this down here at the bottom, where there may be a pattern, but it's just not it's not quite as easily identifiable. So for this one, what I'm going to do, this is one of the box graph things. It looks like we've got a couple of pretty good peaks here. So if I look, I'm going to line this one up. That one may actually not be lined up, but we're going to go ahead and try this. Of course, now that I'm on stream and everybody's watching me, I'm not going to get this right, which I don't think I did. So clearly this is all y'all's fault. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's see here. What else we got? This one actually I think is more appropriate. So let's exclude that one, and then yeah, there we go. I got a little performance anxiety. All right, guys, just don't hate me. What the heck? Also just left. What does that mean? Target lost. Okay, hang on. All right, we're gonna have to go all the way back here. Give me 1 second. Like I said, this is the joys of the Fulmination server, right? As I, of course, lost stuff right as I'm trying to do it. So... Okay, so if I did this right, we should be getting another one here in just a second. Let's see. All right, so while I'm waiting on this to respawn, what we got? Yeah, the Phantasm definitely had its time. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. I'm glad you enjoy my linguistical quirks. It's funny because as much as I make these videos and stuff like that, I feel like I'm getting better. But I still just have to laugh that I go back and edit and I'm like, man, I said fill in the blank with whatever phrase about 15 times in that one. So it's definitely funny to look back and see. All right, so we got another waveform here. Like I said, I've got my regular waves, which really are pretty much all of these, and then this one down here, which is kind of my irregular. Just based off of this, I am seeing there's a peak here in the middle, and then we've got kind of a little valley, but not a huge one. Let's see how this one lines up. Doesn't look like this one really lines up at all. That lines up there. That lines up. Let's try this guy. And then here. There we go. All right. So again, we had two lined up and... Okay, perfect. There we go. All right. So let me get back to base here. Oh, and of course it would probably help if I actually flipped this back to the gameplay, wouldn't it? Yeah. That's my bad. That's my bad, guys. Yeah, I need a button for you guys to like just throw something at me, right? Let's see here. All right, now we're back in station. You guys should be able to see this. All right. So we're gonna do the Phantasm next, right? So let's pull this guy up. Now on the Phantasm, again, obviously, because of the bonuses that it gets to the Afterburner, I'm not going to be running a micro warp drive. I'm only going to be running the Afterburner. That does free up some extra low slots, and then obviously we're going to be running a shield tank here. So whenever this eventually gets in, okay, come on. All right, so for the fit here, again, I'm going to be running the pulse lasers. We're going to be orbiting fairly close, but with that shield field, we are going to be having those extra resistances. We are also going to have a massive increase to our signature radius, so we're not going to be able to shield tank, or I'm sorry, speed tank quite as well. I did go ahead and equip a large NOS here, and the reason for that is because when I was testing this out, even with the battery that I've got on here, I was running into some issues with cap, and especially just because of the increased signature radius, I was taking a lot of damage. So you guys will see that in just a minute, but that's why I'm putting the NOS on here. Anything else, again, you probably can run some other different things if you want to. You may be able to run a web here instead of a warp scram. I like having that just because those MWDs are what really give me a lot of trouble in a lot of cases. And with the afterburner, you'll be able to burn out if anybody gets close to you. Whereas if you're just running a web, I just feel like sometimes you may get caught in somebody still out racing you because they are going to be running that 5 times multiplier versus the like 1.5 that you'll get here. Again, I'm going to be running a battery, booster, 2 hardeners, and so when we undock, you'll see the full resistances there. Very similar here. I'm going to be filling the holes in my resistances, so I'm going to be throwing the EM screen on. I'm again then also running the burst aerators. On this one, I am going to run a capacitor control circuit. The reason I went with the control circuit instead of the semiconductor is because for this build in particular, if I ran the semiconductor, I still ended up running out of cap faster than I did when I actually ran the CCC. And so I chose to run this. Again, I think that you could run either one, but just I was running into a little bit of issues, so that's why I decided to go ahead and just give myself a little bit of an extra boost, because again, the way that I'm tanking on this is going to be more of residual over time heals versus kind of the one-offs. Auxiliary thrusters, again, like I said earlier, I'm going to be orbiting far enough out that I'm really not worried about the penalty for the inertia being too close and not being able to maintain that orbit. So let's go ahead and undock here and see what we can do. All right, let's see here. Engineering skill is definitely a big boost here. I would highly recommend, if you guys have not already, definitely start working on those, especially being able to fit additional power grid modules or larger power grid modules. Being able to just have that little bit of extra power grid so that you can fit larger batteries or things like that, I think will really help you as you're going through here. All right, let's see here. So let's jump in here. It's actually kind of fun for me as well because I live in Garista space, and so I literally since day one of this game have only ever done Serpentis and Garista's dead spaces, so it's been kind of fun for these to pop up, and getting to do some of the Angel and the Blood Raider deads has really been cool. Why is this? Okay, there we go. There we go. Now for the pretty light show. Let's go. All right, let's see here. One other thing that I'll say about the Phantasm real quick. I've been putting a lot of hate on this ship, and I still want you all to know that this, if you have a Phantasm, you can still be a very popular person because of the Guardian bubble and allowing everybody else to run just the glass cannon fit. I found that one of the biggest benefits, or I shouldn't say that, one of the best defenses on these types of anomalies is being able to get in and out very quickly. And so if you're able to run a Guardian fit that still has some good DPS and then allowing the rest of your fleet to go in as full DPS. Excuse me. Allowing them to go full DPS, that can be a huge benefit. So I know I'm poo-pooing a little bit here. If you're going solo, this is not my favorite ship. But again, just be aware, try it out, see what you think. But it can still be very good in a fleet. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get all of these going. Let's go ahead and activate. And I'm going to see if I can't get this going. All right, so we've got a couple of... Oh, why are we going that way? All right, so I'm going to orbit here about 18 kilometers. I'm going to go ahead and start my NOS. And then I don't need my shield booster quite yet. And really for these, I probably won't need it too much. What I was finding was that I was taking a lot of damage when I was trying to do the T8 deads. I was doing some additional testing. And that was really where it kind of capped out. And I was having some issues. So I went ahead and just left this for now. Again, you can see with the NOS, because we're running against rats, they have infinite cap. You're always going to be able to drain them. And so again, it just helps keep some of that a little bit more topped off than you would if you were starting to go down and really having issues with your cap. Now that being said, I do obviously, because I'm orbiting down here, and I'm not sure why I'm quite this close because I thought I set it at like 16 kilometers. But you can see, you know, the rats at this point are probably in the bubble or just outside of 7 kilometers. So they're just outside of the bubble. But it's just something to bear in mind. If I start running this shield booster, this is going to go down pretty quickly. So again, be aware of it. Pop the battery. Don't be afraid to do that. I'm already down to 76%, which was lower than I got with the Gila or the Ashimmu. So just this build is a little bit more cap dependent. It's going to be a little bit trickier in terms of navigation and how you do this, especially if you're going to be running against higher tier rats. And of course, because we're in Blood Raiders, they're throwing all kinds of fun E-War on me as well, which is super fun. But so that's really kind of the Phantasm. You can see I'm staying pretty tapped up with my shield and the booster running. But again, I am, even with the NOS and even with the extra cap that I get passively because of the battery, I am starting to drain that cap probably a little bit more than I would really like to. Like I said, though, if you're managing this and if you're only pulsing that booster, you're probably going to be okay until you get to some of those higher tier rats. I think that it's really important that you're just keeping an eye on this, and again, keeping that situational awareness to kind of know where your cap is, know where your shields are, and if somebody were to jump in, just kind of knowing intuitively how you're going to get out, because ultimately I don't think that this is the best 1v1 ship. Especially, you know, I love the Succubus. I think that's a great ship for 1v1s. But the Phantasm, I just don't think I'd really want to go up against somebody, especially in space where you're going to be having some cap issues already. All right, so what do you guys think? Why am I... Oh, did I actually not set my default orbit? That is exactly what happened. You were right. Thank you, Omar. I appreciate you looking out for me. That's what happens when I try to do too many things at once. But yeah, so that's the Phantasm. Again, I still think that this is a very viable ship for a fleet. I think you get some great DPS. I would be, again, considering whether you need to use a Phantasm versus a MOA just from an ISK perspective. I think that these things are still, again, 2.5 to 3 bill fully fitted. versus a MOA 2, which you could, again, throw in here and you'd probably be able to fit that thing out for less than 500 million. So an ISK decision that you need to make. This is a great ship, just not my personal favorite, especially when we're talking about ratting solo. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start heading back. Just so that I can try to do another one of these before we lose another spawn. Yeah, again, I agree, Alan. I think that it's a great ship. It's just, for solo ratting, it can definitely be a bit tricky. But if you've got one in the hangar and you just don't want to use it, feel free to contract it to me. I'll happily take it, All right, we need to just stop. Just pull everybody back so that we don't keep auto-orbiting. I will actually say the other thing that I tried, I did leave the shield field off and just try to straight speed tank. That worked okay, but it ultimately, I think I ended up taking more damage with just trying to speed tank versus using the extra resists. So again, I'm doing all of this with perfect skills and completely blinged out weapons and mods. So that those results may vary a little bit depending on your skills and the way that you have your ship rigged. But I found that it just wasn't a good trade-off. So if you're thinking about trying, let me know if it's different for you or if you have a different experience for sure. All right, let's head back. I'm gonna go with the Vigilant next. That sounds good to you guys. I appreciate the offer of a non-existent Phantasm. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. And yes, I do agree that the shield field is typically a team event ship. The one exception being the succubus. Although to be honest, I don't know if I don't know if I've ever actually run a shield field on my succubus. I pretty much always just straight speed tank because the thing's so damn fast. Not sure if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. Sounds good, Alan. Thanks for joining. All right, guys, let's jump in here. Let's test the Vigilant out. And is that the last one? No, we got the Cinnable. What am I thinking? All right. So the two builds that I've got here for the Vigilant, and eventually when this loads, so I've got a snub fit build for the Vigilant, and then I've also got a rifled rails build. The interesting thing with this one is that my style in general, and this is probably giving away some information, but if you ever 1v1 with me, my go-to style is typically that I like to kite and I like to control the engagement range. And so for me, the Daredevil is my favorite ship. I'm a passionate believer in the Daredevil. The Vigilant is a fun cruiser, but I don't fly it that often just because I personally like to have the maneuverability of a frigate if I'm going to be flying in that type of engagement. And I'm not sure why I don't have an extra rail on here. But this would be this is very similar to what I fly when if I would be flying the Vigilant on the live server, because of the range of the rails and the ability of the Vigilant to really control that engagement distance. I can keep. Why are you telling me this? Anyways, apparently my fit was, I'm not sure what happened. Oh, I reset some of my skills. All right, so this would be very similar. I'd probably throw the medium NOS on there still. Actually, I might do a neutralizer on this one. But you can see that what I would do here, I would be really focusing on trying to control the range, keep you at a optimal of those rifled rails, and then be alphaing you down with consecutive strikes. Now, the other thing that I can do, because I'm looking at going with the range option and controlling that range, is that I can actually throw 2 damage mods on here. I can pop those again for that high alpha damage along with the increased activation. And so that would be kind of my go-to, if you will, for my personal style. Now, because we're on the test server and I can try things without any consequences, I'm actually going to be doing a slightly different build that one of my corp mates sent me. And we're going to be running with snubs on this one. And then the other reason that I like the range build on InSpace especially is because, again, I can just run straight webs. I don't have to worry about running a warp scrambler or a point. And so I can really just lock you down to like 3% of your speed, because I don't have to have those extra mid slots taken up by a point or anything. And again, eventually. All right. Well, while the test server decides to do its thing, saving the best for last. If you're talking about the Cinnable, that is my go-to right now in terms of a cruiser. So definitely. Jonathan, in terms of the Scram, I am not running it on this one because if you look at the math, with 2 Predator webs, you end up with, I think, like a 3% total velocity. And so even if I were to run a Scram at the range that I'd be engaging at, I wouldn't be able to use the Scram, and the webs themselves get the speed down even on a frigate that could be running at like 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers a second, or meters a second, 4 to 5 kilometers a second. The speed only gets to like 400 or 500 meters per second, and I can outrun that with an MWD, which is why I don't put a Scram on this one in particular. How would I deal with an Ashimmu? I would probably run from an Ashimmu, to be perfectly honest. The Ashimmu, because of the range of the webs, I just don't really want to tangle with that, between that and then the NOS and all of that. I have actually played around with, and I actually got a Ashimmu to Hull, flying an Algos Assault, which was kind of fun. That was before I was really doing a lot of stuff for YouTube, and I haven't found one yet, but or I haven't found one since, or done one since. But drones and obviously missiles, anything that doesn't run cap, and then I was using the Algos because of the long point. So that's how I would deal with an Ashimmu at this point. All right, so the snub build here for the Vigilant. As I said, we're running snubs here, so we're going to be doing a lot of damage. We did go with the 2 hardeners, 2 repairs. I was able to fit a large NOS on here, again, because I'm max skills. If you're not max skills, you probably would have to go down to the upper or something like that, or whatever it's called. But you may still be able to fit a large NOS on here. And then again, obviously, we're running 2 webs because we're going into InSpace. We don't need those points. In terms of the rigs, I am going full tank on this build. We're going to be getting up close and personal and brawling. I'm going to be filling in the resistances and then using the 2 Trimarchs to just give me that extra amount of hit points so that I can be as tanky as possible running those resists. Now, in terms of the rigs, again, my corp mate who was giving me this. He went straight 3 capacitor control circuit. I'm going to be very curious to see how this works. Again, I haven't really tested this one, so it's going to be a bit of a experiment. But I thought this would be a little bit more fun than just watching me kite around something. So we'll see what happens, right? But let's go ahead. We're going to warp to this. How do you guys think? What do you guys think this is going to happen here? I'm going to be very curious if this is wonderful and in my future build, or if this is my first loss on the server here. Let's just for giggles make sure we've got everything sorted. My OCD kicks in and I have to organize all my mods. All right. And on this one, the other thing I didn't talk about is that I am using the afterburner again. I am going to be using that because, like I mentioned earlier, the MWD is going to get neutralized basically by the strength of my scrams, or I'm sorry, of my webs. You can see here just one of these ends up with a 91% reduction. So when you put 2 on there, you end up basically with like a 3% total speed. So even if you're running at 5,000 meters per second, when you end up with 2 of those on you, you can only end up going a couple hundred meters per second. I should be able to outrun that with my afterburner. All right, let's jump in here eventually. Come on. CC3s are cheap. I have not actually looked recently, to be honest. I haven't had to buy one, so I don't know what they are. CDO, I like it. I feel you there, Jonathan. All right, so we're jumping in here. I'm going to have to burn to a second room, and we are really going to test this thing out. I'm just going to ignore these 2 so that we can get to the fun part. I'll just see if I can hit them. Hit them as we do a little drive-by here. Now the range on these snubs is not great. Optimal range being 4.5 kilometers. Accuracy fall off 9.7. Unfortunately, that does mean that under 15 kilometers is going to be my sweet spot really here. I don't think that if we were to try to go much past that, we would really have much of a reason, or we wouldn't have. It would take us longer to kill things because we'd be missing so often than it really would even be worth trying to worry about the webs or anything like that. So I'm not going to deal with that. We're just going to go straight for the public and just try to jump into this and see what happens. Of course, I say that as we're going 1,000 meters per second, and it's going to take us a minute to get there. So, anybody got some good jokes while we're waiting here? Anybody? I'm not even a dad, and I have dad jokes. It's great. As we're getting close here, the one other thing that I will just say with this build in particular that I'm going to be very interested of, because the armor is so much higher than the the shield, you can see that we've got almost double the just raw hit points for the armor versus the shield. The question here is going to really start coming into how fast do those shields go down, and then I have less buffer once that armor dies. So where do I make the decision to disengage if I need it? Hopefully we don't get to that point, but always be thinking about, if you're armor tanked in particular, when are you going to say enough is enough? I'm going to get out of here. On this build, because it's so heavy with reps and everything like that, I'm probably going to say if I get down to about a third of my armor, I would be wanting to bail, especially just given the fact that we're in space, and there's, even just running over here, I'm still at 85% capacitor. So just kind of be thinking about that as you're looking at some of these armor tanks, and kind of knowing when you're going to need to jump out. All right, this is probably going to take a little more micro here. Again, we're not going to have a cloak when we jump in, so I'm going to lock stuff up immediately. Of course, where are they actually spawned? All right, so I'm going to wait and let people kind of disengage themselves. One other thing you'll notice here is that my afterburner is still on from the previous room. So be very careful when you have when you jump into another room in an in-space, because if for example, your micro warp drive is on, it can very easily pop you, halfway across the room before you realize what's happening. So just pro tip, I may or may not have lost a ship. I can neither confirm nor deny that, because I was not paying attention, and suddenly I was 60 kilometers from a gate in any direction. Not fun. All right, so here, like I said, I'm going to be orbiting about 15 kilometers. It looks like I've got a Dragoon somewhere that's not accounted for. So we're going to get that Dragoon Sniper. We are going to split the webs so that we can focus him down and make sure that we are staying at least a little bit away from this guy. Shields are going down, but again, I'm not terribly worried about that at this point. Interestingly, we are hitting almost 20 kilometers out with these snubs, which is better than I was really expecting. Let's not go straight into the enemy. That seems like a poor life choice. Come on, let me split my webs. Let's get our NOS going here. And I do have to say, I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have thought that the rats in general would have done a little bit more damage, but really none of these cruisers have really had that much issue with any of these standard rats. Like I said earlier, when I was doing some testing, I was able to really get up to the T8s before I really started having some problems with tank, which feels about right. I think for a faction, being able to handle anything under that T8 mark comfortably, again, just feels about right for the price point that we're dealing with. I'd be a little concerned if my $2.5 billion ship couldn't handle a couple of SFIs and maulers, things like that. But you will see we are now down into armor. It's holding pretty steady. I'm not having to do a whole lot here. I'm going to activate both of these reps just to, again, kind of give you guys a sense of how quickly this capacitor is going to go down. But I think that we're going to be able to actively tank this no problem. Jonathan, I just saw that joke. That's funny. I don't know. Depends on how fast I'm losing. I'm not sure what that one was a reference to, but So yeah, any questions on the Vigilant? I mean, I think this one's again, this is actually holding pretty well. With that large NOS, we're able to keep the cap around 70. I think that it's going pretty well. Obviously, I wouldn't be running both reps right now normally, but just for the purpose of discussion, I definitely wouldn't want to tank much more than this. I think for the second wave or the third wave for some of these, you definitely have a lot more problems. But orbiting, I probably even orbit a little bit closer here without too much trouble, and just those webs pinning everything down. And then the snubs just absolutely blasting them. I'm actually going to go ahead. Let's just set our orbit to 4 kilometers, and let's just see what happens. Of course, now that I've gotten everything dead, so. Yeah, so I mean, we're starting to get into a little bit of cap trouble again. I've just been running this nonstop. Oh, and actually, the NOS actually stopped. So yeah, so that's really it at this point for the Vigilant. I'm gonna go ahead and head back so that I can try to do the Cinnable real quick, and we will wrap up with that. And then we can just do kind of a Q&A if you guys want. I had planned on going about an hour and a half. We're about at that point. But happy to answer some questions, and I'm just glad to have you guys here. This has been fun. I wasn't really sure what to expect, so I really appreciate you guys all being here and jumping into chat. It's really this is new for me, but it's been a lot of fun. So we'll have to do another one of these soon. Come on, let's go. Back it up. Time to go home, bud. No, it's not. Okay, I need to just take this off. All right. Okay, so while we're waiting on my slow Vigilant here, a couple of other tips that I want to go over for in-space real quick. If you guys haven't already, I would really encourage you to familiarize yourself with the way that in-spaces are laid out and kind of the way that you can navigate through them. You will always be entering in through a Kleinwell. These can be either player generated or found naturally occurring. The player generated ones are on a timer generated from a POS. And so you should have a decent idea of when those are popping. One fun thing that you can also note is if you are in a system that has a lot of enemies, or that has a lot of POSs, you can actually scan and see if you can find their Kleinwells that they are bringing in, and that will actually drop you into their covert storage or their secure mining zone. This is really kind of fun because it then puts you right in the kind of the fox in the hen house. So just, I do have a PvP scanner and a ship that I have equipped specifically to scan down and tackle. But sometimes, depending on what you're doing, it can be worthwhile to not only have that PvP scanner, but also a PvE scanner, because you may be able to find some of those and get to a juicy location that the enemy is not expecting you to be in. Once you get out of that, you do have the main zone. That zone is where the majority of the good loot is going to be. That is going to be the main area where people go to PvP. You can still go down the different routes, route 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, but you will only ever be able to exit through the same Kleinwell that you came in from. And that's really important. So if you are on the run, look at where you're actually coming from. So when you first jump in, kind of turn around and look at that Kleinwell so that you don't think that you can run and get to one, and then you get there and it says you can't come out here because you don't have the right key. If that happens and you have people chasing you, again, because you can't warp in space, it's going to make it a really bad day for you because you're going to be kind of pinned in. So just be careful. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. What is the real purpose to destroy a POS? So aside from just the bragging rights, obviously it's a way to hurt other players pretty significantly because you can't insure a POS. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of strategic value per se. For example, if you were to be killing a corporate citadel, for example, obviously that corporation or that alliance loses Sov. Because they've lost Sov, they can no longer generate openings to end spaces in those POSs until they drop another citadel. So there's strategic value in the corp citadels. Again, unless you're just trying to hurt that specific player or you're just looking for something to blow up, which I'm always a fan of. I don't know if there's really necessarily a real purpose to destroying a POS. Yeah, exactly. It's more of a financial and an economic warfare than anything else. All right. Last up, we've got the Cinnable. Now, this is my go-to cruiser I should say this is my go-to faction cruiser. My current favorite cruiser right now is the RB Covops 2. I love that ship. But in terms of faction cruisers, I've been enjoying the heck out of the Cinnable, both for PvP and PvE. So this build is going to be very similar to what I run normally. And I'll give you guys one guess what the main difference is. I think you'll be able to spot it pretty quick. Eventually. I swear it takes me 3 times longer to make a video on the test server just because of how long it takes everything to load. All right, so we've got this awesome looking slug of a ship, and so the main thing that I do here that's different than what I do on the normal server is that I will actually swap out this this gyro stabilizer for a MWD. If it'll let me, come on. Again, just the reason for this is that because the Cinnable is a brawler, it doesn't have the benefit of the webs and the bonuses to those webs that the Ashimmu and the Vigilant have. I like having that extra. Oh, of course. What did I do? How did I do this? This is what I get for changing things last minute and then forgetting what I did. Trying to do math in my head. I think this is what I did actually. So I put a large on here, and then I should be able to fit the medium MWD. But anyways, because it doesn't have the bonus to the webs, because it is really focused primarily on being a damage dealer as opposed to an E-War or something else like that, it is helpful to have just that little bit of extra speed, that little bit of extra escapability, so that I can get out. Yeah, that's what I did. I put the Imperial instead of the Volcal whatever it is. Now, with that being said, I do still shield tank this, obviously. I've got a medium booster, and then I've got 2 adaptives. with the large NOS, I'm able to run that pretty much nonstop if I want. Unlike the other items, or unlike the other ships where I'm filling the resistance, I do go full damage here. Again, because of the bonuses that the Cinnable gets, and just the way that I like to fly with this, I'm going to be running a collision rig and then 2 burst aerators. I'm then going to also be throwing on the capacitor control circuit just to give myself a little bit extra oomph to that capacitor. If you wanted to, you probably could run the semiconductor. I personally like the CCC just because I rat with this ship normally outside of in-space as well. And so I like to have that for the normal ratting. If there were a lot more in-spaces around, it might be a different story. But because of this, I'm again just going to be throwing that out there. And then again, I'm going to run my two Aux 3 rigs. That's a pretty standard type of setup for me, anyways. Do I have a Halloween skin for the RB? I do on the test server. I can generate one there. I don't have one on the live server. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a huge fan of skins in general. I kind of like the red and the gold, especially on the Amar ships, anyways. But I know a lot of people that like them, and I think there's some cool ones that are coming out that the devs have kind of keyed us in on. So my opinion might change on that one, but for now at least, I think I'm sticking with the normal skins. Yeah, Matthew, that the Ash is a beast of a ship. Get a good fleet to take it out, and it will definitely make your day. All right, guys. So while I'm doing this, like I said, I'm kind of wrapping up here. If you guys have other questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them into chat. I'll take a look and we can talk through them real quick. I think that what I'm going to be looking at doing, just this went pretty well. I think that what we may do is I may have another live stream here where I actually test out some of the fits that you guys want to submit and see. And so if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and jump onto the Discord server that I set up. I'm going to probably create a section for you guys to ask questions and post fits that you would like to see on the test server. And then again, maybe in well, of course, this in-space is now collapsing in 3 minutes. Let's see if we can get this going. But yeah, so that you guys can kind of see how some of that might work, and kind of see what some fits might look like with certain skills or anything like that. So if you haven't joined the Discord server, be sure to check that out as well. You can find a link in any of the videos that I've posted in the last 2 weeks or so, or just search Killmark Collectors on Discord, and be sure to check it out. Balgorn PvE fit. Heck yeah, man. I want to fly a Balgorn so much. I can't afford to get a faction battleship. Between the insurance and the just the upfront cost, I spend all my money doing stupid fits in cruisers and battle cruisers. All right, let's see if we can get here real quick, because I really don't want to have to go scan down another one of these. Go ahead and activate my hardeners, because I'm going to forget if I don't. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I think I can. I think I can. Yeah, don't let that baby get out until you got full insurance on it. Jake from State Farm can help you, I'm sure. All right, so on this one, I'm going to set my orbit to about 9 kilometers, which is what I normally do. I'm going to engage both my hardeners and the nope, can't do that yet. Engage both my hardeners and the NOS. Yes, I literally did just do that. Come on. My MWD is off. Come on, let me do this. There we go. And let's see if we can. Man, this server is just struggling. The cheapest and best prophecy counter. Man, that's a tough one. The prophecy is a beast of a ship. I actually really like the Arbiter as a prophecy counter, if I'm being honest. I don't know if this is gonna. I don't know if this is gonna spawn another wave, which is really weird because there should be at least 2 in here. Let's go to. I wonder if it's something because there's not much time left. So I actually really like the Arbiter as a prophecy counter. It's more about the way that you fly it. The big thing with the prophecy is that if you're catching somebody who is PvE ratting, more likely than not, they're gonna have 5 to 10 drones max. Most people who fly the prophecy for PvE only carry like infiltrators and Valkyries so that they can hit armor rats or shield rats. Most of the time they won't have backups. So what you need to do, it's called defanging a drone ship. And so you basically will orbit, especially with the Arbiter. The reason I like it is because it's got the reduction in signature radius penalty for the micro warp drive. So you can be orbiting at over 2 kilometers a second pretty easily, and then you can actually be using your own drones against the enemy drones. Pop those because most of the time the prophecy is just going to focus on you and not realize that their drones are getting hit. And then you can from there, dadgummit. From there, you can basically be doing a lot of the same tactics and to basically just speed tank the drones, get out of range, and then ultimately kill a prophecy that does not have any drones and really can't shoot you otherwise. Excuse me. So that's how I would counter a prophecy. But they are tough ships. I will tell you that with the native bonuses. All right, so it's probably going to take me another couple of minutes here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can spawn something real quick. Hang on. So one thing that you were actually saying that I've thought about, and I'll be curious to get y'all's thoughts here. PvP in general is kind of scary, right? If you've never done it before. I'm obviously trying to do as much as I can, especially before August, because when the arena drops, I know that I'm going to be wanting to do that all the time, and I don't want to completely screw myself there by not having some experience. Again, just thinking through ideas for live streams and stuff like that, I think it'd be a lot of fun for us to all go to a specific location and just kind of have a bunch of 1v1s and kind of coach and talk through and let you guys try some different strategies. Again, just if you're interested in that sort of thing, let me know. I'm happy to set it up. We'll announce it, and hopefully we can do it somewhere where we won't have a bunch of wet blankets come and try to gank us or anything. But we can at least try to have a little bit of fun with it, and get you guys some experience, going to Hull and stuff like that, so that you're not you're getting some reps without really the risk there as well. I'm just going to grab my Astro real quick to scan this down, and then I'm going to do this real fast because I know that we're a little over time here, but I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Yeah, definitely get practice in the frigates. That's great advice. The other thing that you can do, um, that I've done with some corp mates before. If they're mining, I I can or I've contracted ships, or I'm sorry, I've contracted drones because you can pick up a bunch of like MK3 drones or whatever, for super cheap, and just contract them like 15 or 20. And while they are mining, ask them to just throw the drones out, and then you can lock and kill the drones, just again to get practice, kind of like targeting, focusing. And when you do that, lock up the miner. Make sure that you don't shoot them, but lock them, and then just put like a web or something like that on there. Again, only do this in very secure locations. Don't do this if there's a million reds around. But that can be one way if somebody's just looking to, get some practice shooting drones and keeping a web on or something like that. I've done that with some corp mates, so you can do something like that as well. All right, come on. 555 everything frig. Jeez, man, I don't want to meet you in the dark alley. I think I'm 554 in most of it, but whew, going that extra level for expert is a commitment. All right, last thing here. Let's see if we can't scan this down. All right. All right. So, oh, what the? There should be one in here. Okay, there's not one in here. Let's try this one more time. And yes, I know I'm not showing my screen. I don't think that the devs would get mad if I showed some of this stuff on the test server, but I just would rather not lose access at this point. Come on. All right, we should have one in just a second here. Cool. All right. Well, what other questions you guys have? I know we just got to give this a minute here, and we're back. Okay. I just got to give this a minute here. Let's see if I can go ahead and scan it now. Yep, exactly. All right, so again, we got two noise signals here. Got a couple of regular waves, got my irregular here. This looks pretty even. Let's see though. So this is low, this is low. I don't think that's it. Let's exclude that one. And then this one looks like it's here. Drum roll, please. Yay! There we go. All right, cool. All right, so last one. Let's get the Cinnable out here, and then we will wrap up for the night. What's up, Pickle? Anything over a T6 in space. What do you mean by that, Matthew? Have I done anything over a T6, or were we planning to do anything over a T6 tonight? And just so y'all know, I'm not ignoring you. There's a delay in what I'm seeing and what y'all see, so I apologize if it seems like I'm just really slow to respond. Cinnable, here we go. Pickle. Well, Pickle, I'm on the test server, so if you can track me down here, then I'll be very impressed. Um, yeah, Matthew, I'm only doing T6s right now just to kind of illustrate stuff. To be honest, I thought that it would be more of a challenge than it was. So I was trying to keep everything kind of consistent so that you guys could compare apples to apples. I think that what I might do is I might put out a shorter video of doing some of these in like doing like a T8 or a T9. But just because I was trying to walk through some of the different fittings and the way to fight some of this stuff, looking back, I probably should have done a little bit higher tier, but unfortunately, kind of live and learn, right? All right, let's go here. All right, so let's get this last one going so you guys can see this, and then I will let you all return to your lovely Monday evenings, or Monday or Tuesday morning, maybe, depending on where you're at. All right. Yeah, Pickle. It'd be fun to have some live PvP here. So maybe we can set that up sometime. That'd be fun. And my allergies are getting to me. It's weird. Normally here in Colorado we don't have too much, but I think the last couple of days we've had a bunch of stuff because of the rain and everything, and starting to kick back up. All right, so again, we've got plenty of rats that need blapping. I'm going to go in here. We're going to be orbiting fairly close. Now, it's going to be interesting because these are going to be using the tracking disruptors. So just looking at these, I'm probably going to want to take down this Omen Navy issue if I can get to it here. And let's approach. Let's go ahead and just turn auto orbit back on. I know I took that off. Make sure we got that nuke going. And then I'm going to go ahead and start the shield just so that you guys, again, can kind of see how quickly this goes down. But really, I mean, the Cinnable is just a straight brawler. It's got a small enough signature radius that you can still speed tank very effectively. But then the damage that it's putting out is just monstrous. I think that if you were to go and put, full damage mods or anything like that, like I normally do, as opposed to having the extra MWD, you would be able to get over 1,000 DPS. It's a beast of a ship. Like I said, it's my personal favorite on the live server right now. It's my favorite faction ship, other than the RB, which is what I'm running a lot of right now. But it's a great ship. We are getting a little bit low here on cap. We're down to about 50%, because that booster is running nonstop. If, again, I was to just pulse this, I think I'd be able to manage it just fine. And that's largely because of the capacitor increase, or capacitor recharge increase nerf, because it's just, we're losing 40% of that recharge time. But with that being said, that's really kind of it for today, guys. If you've got any other questions, throw them in chat real quick. But I'm going to be kind of wrapping up here. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. For me, it was fun to interact with you guys a little bit more live than just some of the videos and the comments. So really appreciate you guys coming out, spending your Monday night with me. Like I said, we'll definitely be doing more of these. Just got to figure out some other topics and get this stuff set up. But this was a lot of fun, and really, really enjoyed it. So let's see here. Omar, yeah, that I thought that was kind of weird too, that it was the O&I that was hitting me instead of the crucifier, but whatever. And yes, Angel Cartel is definitely my favorite for now. All right, guys. Well, with that, like I said, we've gone a little bit longer than I had really anticipated, but yeah, this was a blast. I really had a good time. I think that, like I said, if you haven't already, be sure to go and join Discord. I'm going to put a channel in there for you guys to post kind of your dream fits or your fantasy fits. And you can, put those in there, and then maybe the next live stream that we do, I'll have built out a couple of those, and we'll throw them into some anomalies. We can test those out, kind of see how they go. I'll give you my thoughts. And we can, do a little bit of group theory crafting, if you will. But other than that, yeah, that's all I got. So if you guys have any other questions, hit me up in comments, hit me up on Discord. Really enjoyed just talking to you guys and hanging out. So thanks so much. If you guys got any more, I don't know, any more anything. I'm just trying to wrap up here. My brain's fried. But anyways, this was a lot of fun. I'm gonna end it here. Start heading home. I hope to see you guys out there. Thank you so much again for joining me tonight, and I will keep you guys posted on the next one. So until next time, fly safe, have fun, and I think who is it? Sovereign that says avoid chat scams. I gotta get a cool catchphrase like some of those guys. So either way, y'all have a great night. I'm gonna go ahead and kill it, but we'll talk soon. Thanks so much, guys.